Hello, my name is Paul Cronin from Adriatic Metals. I'm the Managing Director and CEO of the company. Adriatic is a UK-based mineral development and exploration company with assets in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We currently own the very high-grade Vares polymetallic asset, polymetallic including gold, silver, lead, zinc, copper, and barite. And more recently, we have announced our intention to acquire Tethyan Resource Corp out of Canada, which owns the very prospective Raska district in southern Serbia, which also includes the Kizovac and Sistaci polymetallic assets. And we look to close that deal in August this year. Moving on, let me just tell you a little bit more about the history of Adriatic, where we have come from and where we intend to be moving to. As I mentioned earlier, Adriatic's focus is in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We own the Vares polymetallic asset, which is about 50 kilometers north of Sarajevo. The Vares assets were actually discovered right back in the 1960s. And had some limited exploration work that was done in the Yugoslav era. There was a mine built at the Vijevača site and a plant that was producing both lead, zinc, and barite concentrates. But that mine shut down in the late 1980s. But in parallel to that, there was also a very extensive exploration program being conducted in an area about 12 kilometers to the northwest of Vijevača called Ripica. Ripica had some drilling as well as some adits. The drilling was clearly starting to identify some economic mineralization, but had yet to discover the main ore body. When we acquired the projects in early 2017, we were able to come in and relatively easily move a drill rig into site and conduct confirmation drilling. As with most of the former operating projects in the Yugoslav area, there was often an extensive amount of very detailed, very accurate historical work, but a lot of the records and the physical drill core was no longer available. We had to go in there and do confirmation drilling, enabled to put a JORC compliant resource on those assets. And what we discovered when we started drilling was that in addition to economic grades of lead and zinc, there was also very robust grades of gold, silver, and copper, particularly in the Ripica asset. Since those early days in 2017 of starting up effectively a new company in Bosnia, building a team, creating a core shed, doing all of the things that you need to do to start an exploration program, we've been very successful in demonstrating the value of this asset. We've put together a fantastic team of very skilled people. We now have a workforce in Bosnia of around 50 people, working on exploration, on engineering, as technicians, looking at environmental, social, and governance, as well as senior management in country, who ensure that all of the various programs of work that we're doing at the moment move together concurrently. Bosnia is a fantastic jurisdiction. It is in the heart of Europe, as you all are well aware. It neighbors, obviously, Serbia, where there is a lot of mining activity, but Bosnia has not had a lot of exploration work over the last 10 or 15 years, as there has been in Serbia. The simple reason for that is the Bosnian legal framework makes the barriers to entry for exploration quite high. Getting a mineral concession is quite a challenging process, involving multiple steps and being very expensive, requiring certainly in some areas, such as our canton, payments of about 500,000 euros per square kilometre for a mineral concession. Bosnia does have an established mining industry. It has a lot of coal mines. It also has some very good polymetallic mines owned by MINEX, a private company in the UK. It has a jurisdiction that is attractive to foreign investment. It is a very business-friendly environment. The tax rates are low, favourable royalty regimes. You have a very supportive government who are always trying to help foreign investors navigate their laws and understand how things can be done in that jurisdiction. And we've personally found it a fantastic place to work, far better than many other jurisdictions that I've worked in across the world. In neighbouring Serbia, obviously the mining code was reformed in the last few years. It also has very favourable tax and royalties, and is again another very politically stable jurisdiction, which is attracting some significant investment from the likes of companies like Rio Tinto, Dundee Precious Metals, Zinjan Mining, Mandora, and many others. The Rupica deposit north of Vares is quite extraordinary. When we acquired that exploration license in 2017, there were about 54 historical drill holes. Most of them had not intercepted mineralization, but there were some that had started to intercept mineralization. When we first went in and drilled there back in early or mid 2017, our first drill hole intercepted over 64 meters of high-grade massive sulfides with a gold equivalent grade of around 21 grams per tonne. Since then, we've drilled well over another 130 holes into the deposit, and mid last year to find our maiden resource, and it won't be our last resource, but it is our maiden resource of 9.4 million tonnes, grading at about 10 grams a tonne gold equivalent, but it is a truly polymetallic deposit with economic grades of each of the metals that are included in that deposit. It is structurally complex. However, we're starting to understand the deposit very well, and our recent drilling has been quite successful. We've extended the deposit strike length by 150 meters, both to the north and south, and we're continuing to step out to the north and south, as well as to the east, where late last year we discovered a new area of mineralization. We've also done extensive soil geochemistry. We've done extensive geophysics, and that is really defining our current exploration today. Also late last year, we started to put a scoping study on the project. That scoping study indicated that the project had some pretty captivating economics. For upfront capital of less than 180 million US dollars, it returns an NPV at a discount rate of 8% of a little over 900 million US dollars and an internal rate of return of 107%. The project has been designed in a way that maximizes the value out of both the Vijavacha deposit and the Rupica deposit. As you can see from the graph here on the left-hand side of the screen, it has got very substantial upfront free cash flows, which justify the very rapid payback period of around 8 months. The mine plan has been designed to access the highest grade ore first, and continuing test work on that high grade ore indicates that it does float very quickly, that it can be done to a coarser grind. And as we work through our pre-feasibility study, you'll see some results coming out in September this year that we think will be very enticing in terms of the way we're trying to optimize this project and maximize its value. But we still have a lot of work to do on exploration growth. In December last year, we drilled a hole 4319. 4319 was our most easterly hole to date in an area where we were actually testing to show that the deposit had closed out. But to our surprise, at depth, we had a very nice 16-meter intercept of particularly high-grade precious metals but also very robust base metals. And we've continued to drill to the south of the deposit, again, hitting very good precious metals with 4.37 grams a ton of gold and 406 grams a ton of silver. But in addition to that, high grade zinc, lead, copper, and barite. And over the remainder of this year, we'll be continuing to look at how we expand that known area of mineralization. And the expansion is really directed in an area to the southeast of the deposit called Jurassic Brestic. Jurassic was previously an area of exploration focus in the 1980s and 90s. Substantial adits had been drilled out there. We tested some grab samples from the adit dumps that were heavily mineralized, and we've commenced a drilling program there. In addition, directly to the south of Rupica, we are about to start drilling on a project that we call Botovica. Botovica, again, we have done extensive soils and geophysics. We have analysed historical data that was made available to us, and we will be commencing a drill program there within a few weeks. The strategy for the company, however, is not just about Rupica. Rupica is a tier 1 asset. It will have a long mine life. It will generate substantial cash flows. Economically, it is a very robust project in that it generates huge free cash flows that can be used to expand Adriatic's footprint throughout the Balkans, and our focus is the Balkans. The other advantage of Rupica is that it has no tailings. There is so much mineralization in the deposit itself that we're actually short of waste rock to backfill the project and mine out all of the stopes. Veovaca will be key in terms of how we manage that backfill by essentially mining Veovaca or parts of Veovaca early in the process to be able to generate waste rock for Rupica. But in terms of our strategy for the company, the recently announced acquisition of Tethyan Resources is the first step in that, where we intend to demonstrate our credentials as a multi-mine developer, so that the cash flows as they start to slow down from the Vares project can be augmented or supplemented from the cash flows at Kizilbac and Sistaci. This is an historical project, a bit like what Rupica and Veovaca were to us 3 years ago. I understand that Tethyan will commence drilling on this project in early June, and that we should see a steady flow of results coming out of that project over the next several months. In terms of the timeline, we've obviously been very busy on exploration, but we've also been doing a lot of work on metallurgy. We've been doing work in our ESIA, our pre-feasibility study. We expect to complete the pre-feasibility study in September this year, and we'll immediately kick off the definitive feasibility study, which is expected to be completed in Q1. Whilst all of that's going on, we're going to continue our exploration efforts, and once we close Kizilbac, Tethyan will extend the drill program there, and we'll look to extend that resource and build up quite a substantial global resource in country. From a permitting perspective, we've been making fantastic progress. Just this week, we announced we've received our environmental permit for the Veovaca project. We have submitted our application for environmental clearance on the Rupica project, and we expect all of those exploitation permits to be issued Veovaca initially in likely July, and then Rupica toward the end of the year, which will enable us to basically take the project forward on a very aggressive time frame. We also have a very strong social and community responsibility program in country that has been involved in a number of initiatives. We're starting to build a strong social license, particularly in our canton and our municipality, and we'll be continuing to formalize the structures around that and continuing to work with our local community to deliver the benefits of this project. Our management team is very robust, led by Peter Bilby, our chairman. but we also have a very experienced board and management team who are capable of delivering projects like this in multiple jurisdictions. And we're excited to have Fabian Baker joining us from Tethian in a corporate development role once that acquisition completes. From a corporate perspective, the company has done relatively well. As you can see from the graph, we have been impacted by the current COVID crisis, but we've got the balance sheet to be able to do what we need to do. We've always had very supportive shareholders. Management still has a substantial stake in the company, and we've been able to reduce our cost of capital over time as we've tried to progress the project, and we'll continue to do that over the next couple of years. So thank you very much for your time today. And if you do have any questions, feel free to contact me. Thank you.